Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the official channel of academic composition. I'm here again with Professor Preston. Many of you guys have taken your sociology class with him, your favorite professor in Virginia. So, Professor Preston and I were here to tell you that debt is not a criminal matter in the United States. Nobody ever goes to jail for failing to pay what they owe. You see, a lot of debt collectors will try to tell you they can put you in jail, but they can't. Keith, tell me what you know about that.
Yeah, a problem that lot of people run into, particularly students, because students are heavily dependent on debt through credit cards and things like that. But a lot of students and a lot of other people who have debt problems don't know their rights. They don't know that, for example, it's against the law for debt collectors to make threats and threaten to put you in jail or something like that if you can't pay your debts. We don't have debtors' prisons in America. Um, they People don't often know their rights as far as being able to challenge debts, legally and financially. You have a lot of rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act of 1978. That's a federal law. Most states have similar laws, but it's possible to avoid debt collectors through using a few simple procedures that just really involve exercising your rights under the law. And one of the things that we can do at a academic composition is help those that do have these kinds of debt issues. We've helped clients that had tens of thousands of dollars in debts in personal loans and credit cards and utility bills and other similar debts. We've helped our clients to get around those debts and avoid debt collectors in a way that proved to be very helpful. And we can do that for anyone that's really facing these kinds of challenges. So that's what we do.
So, how does this work? If I owe money, $10,000 to, say, Bank of America, and I just can't pay anymore, I don't know, maybe I have a medical problem or my business debt, whatever the reason is, what's the next step?
Well, if you just can't pay, you can't pay. That means you just need to stop paying if you're not able to afford it. Never go without paying your rent or buying groceries because you're paying on a credit card debt. That's ridiculous. If you go long enough without paying your credit card debt, the credit card company, whether it's Chase, whether it's Discover, whether it's Bank of America, whatever it is, they'll simply charge the debt off. And what that means is that it becomes a tax write-off. It's like a business expense. And then
Mhm.
after they don't do that until about 6 months after you stop paying. And then it goes to a debt collector. And sometimes they have their own debt collectors that are subcontractors. They'll contract out to a debt collector. And that debt collector will start sending you letters and emails and calling you on the phone. Or sometimes they actually sell the debt. There are people called junk debt buyers. These are firms that actually buy debt and then they go out and try to collect the debt, and then they keep the proceeds from the collection. And it's a lot easier to evade these kinds of debt collectors than what many people think. You just have to know your rights. You have to know how to respond to collection notices, and you have to know what your rights are legally. And if you do know
Uh-huh.
your rights, you can get around. You can get out of tens of thousands of dollars of debt if necessary.
Now, what's confusing to me a little bit is that, all right, so if I owe money to a credit card company, I probably should not talk to the debt collectors. I should not write back to them on my own. That's going to complicate things. And what could you do for me if I come to you?
No, no, never try to deal with these debt collectors on your own because there's all kinds of tricks they use to try to trip you up. We have a very professional, streamlined system that allows uh, debtors to be able to deal with debt collectors in a professional way. We know how to respond to them. We know how to invoke all the relevant laws like the Fair Debt Collection Practices
Mhm.
Act. And we know how to send a cease and desist order to a debt collector. If debt collectors violate your rights under the law, you can actually sue them. There is
Mhm.
provision for that in the law. And we help consumers, debtors, to become more informed about their rights.
Mhm. And that is fantastic, isn't it?
It
So
is.
blowing them off is not the right thing to do. I think you got to respond, but you got to know what you're doing, and that's where you come in. So briefly explain what specifically you can do for somebody who needs help.
Well, if somebody is struggling with debt collectors and they're getting constant phone calls or emails or letters about their debt, what we can do is, first of all, review their actual situation. Like what I always do with clients is I review their actual debts and who their creditors are and their particular set of circumstances. And then we develop a plan of action. Usually the first thing is to let the debt go to charge off, like just ignore if your debt hasn't been charged off yet, if you've only recently stopped making payments, just let it go to charge off, and just in the meantime ignore your creditors. Once it goes to charge off, then you want to wait until they start sending debt collection notices. That can take a while. Sometimes it'll be a few months. And then once you start getting debt collection notices, then you want to know how to respond to debt collectors, because the number one goal is to avoid getting a court judgment against you where they can start garnishing your paycheck and things like that. That's the end game. We want to avoid that. All right. So that's generally easy to avoid if you know your rights. If you know how to handle these kinds of situations, and many people don't. In fact, most people don't. Because debt collectors know this. They know that most people aren't informed, and they know that they're going to score an easy win if they go after an uninformed debtor. So we help you to become informed.
So basically, it's not really education so much as that you're going to be applying this knowledge. You're going to write a letter of some kind explaining how what the debt collector is doing is illegal and how they're running the risk of being prosecuted. It's not unheard of for a consumer to sue the debt collector, isn't it? And actually get the debt canceled.
Yeah. Frequently, what happens is that if a debt collector tries to sue a debtor, if you file a countersuit for violation of Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, they will often then drop the suit, and the court will dismiss the case with prejudice, which means they can't refile the case. So that's your goal. I mean, you want to avoid having to go to court in response to a warrant in debt anyway. We try to keep it from going to that point. But ultimately, there are many, many legal tools that you have at your disposal to beat debt collectors.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, guys, tune in. You'll be hearing from us again soon. Email us at academiccomposition@gmail.com. Professor Preston and I will have more news on why paying off credit card debt and other kinds of debt is actually optional, not mandatory. So email us and we'll take care of you from there. That's all for today. Thank you so much.